Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters, and welcome to our raw reaction review for Silent Night, Deadly Night. A child witnesses his parents' murder by a man in a Santa suit. Years later, as an adult, he dons a Santa costume himself and embarks on a violent quest for retribution against those responsible for the traumatic events from his childhood. Well, Luke, Christmas has come a little early for us, I should say. We were blessed by the good folks over at Cineverse, Bloody Disgusting, all the people behind the scenes on this one for getting us an early screener. I just got to say that up front because, yeah, this is a movie we've been really looking forward to.
Oh my gosh. Holiday horror is always on the agenda here, even when it is not December. But once it hits December and you get to watch these Killer Santa, Killer Snowman, Krampus films, they're all great and we're all excited about them. And we've been a couple of naughty boys on the channel, I think, this year. So getting to see a visit from Billy, I guess, was overdue on our end.
Yeah, this was something that I think coming out of Terrifier 3 and the buzz off that, and of course, a couple years earlier having Thanksgiving, it's like the holidays, especially for horror, have just really started to peak. I mean, some people could even say you go back to like Krampus in 2015. I think like every year now we've had like a flagship horror, and we've had two of them kind of with like Nosferatu, Terrifier, and then we had Frankenstein, and now this. It's just a fun time and a fun time of year. And yes, we are suckers for this. But more than that, Silent Night, Deadly Night has a special place in our hearts, especially for this channel. We started our very first year doing December to Dismember. It was the Killer Santa edition where we covered all the films in this franchise, got really unfortunately familiar with a lot of the sequels in this film franchise. But we did find some diamonds in the rough, and we had to say that the remake, the first remake from Stephen C. Miller, we actually liked quite a bit. So coming back for a secondary remake, man, it's interesting. Anything could really go. Luke, how did Silent Night, Deadly Night 2025 land with you?
Well, first of all, this franchise has been all over the place. From when you look at all those other installments, 3 and 4 are pretty much a snooze fest for us. But Toy Maker's great and really leans into this off-the-wall concept. But the original Silent Night, Deadly Night maintained, fairly grounded in what it was dealing with, the psychological issues with Billy and everything. But going into this remake here of Silent Night, Deadly Night, starring Rohan Campbell, directed by Mike P. Nelson, which we love a lot of his work. Some of the things that he did in the VHS series, and then the Wrong Turn remake,
we are big proponents of that here.
Yeah, a very unique take from what we knew from that 2003 version. And looking at Silent Night, Deadly Night, I really just wanted to have a lot of fun with it. I really wanted to turn up the volume, knowing what we know from this franchise. And of course, looking at Terrifier 3 last year, seeing how fun that film was from a gore perspective, from just pure violence and the charisma of Art the Clown. So I was really just looking to have a lot of fun with Silent Night, Deadly Night. And I do think watching this film, coming out of this film, and being able to reflect on it, I think it's a pretty adequate holiday horror. It's not everything I wanted it to be. I think it misses a mark in a few different aspects for me, especially when I have this list of holiday horror things that I need checked for me. I think there are just a couple things missing that make this one fall a little short for me. But overall, Silent Night, Deadly Night, the remake, was a pretty good experience.
Yeah, this was a weird one. Honestly, I got to put it out there, guys. Luke and I had an unintentional 40-minute conversation about this movie without the cameras on, just because we needed to know where we both stood, because I think at first I went into this knowing only one thing from you, and we very rarely, when we watch screeners separately, do this, but I just asked just for his light opinion. I just want to know, what did you think? And he said, what was it exactly? I don't want to...
I said, unfortunately, I'm a little more sour on this film than I thought I was going to be.
So I went in there with this expectation, and I got to say, I was very thoroughly surprised and happy with this movie. when I watched it. Now, it's one of those things where I'm surprised in the sense that did I get everything that I wanted from it? No, I think there's a couple of things that, especially with how they're marketing this movie, I think we need to put up front. One of the big things is like it's gory, but it's not Terrifier level gore. It's not at all. It's way closer. I think I even said off air, I think the first movie's a little bit gorier. Than this one. The original Silent Night, Deadly Night. Maybe this one has a little bit more. I think the way they look at gore and how they handle it is vastly different here, as to where this one's a lot more fun, a lot more tongue in cheek. The gore in the original is a lot more messed up, a lot more disturbing, I would say. There's a lot of scenes in there that are uncomfortable, as to where here, every time they're hacking somebody up, you're having a good time with it for the most part.
And I do think that original Silent Night, Deadly Night is certainly way more uncomfortable with its themes and how it presents a lot of the violence. This one here, I think, when we get the gore, it sets itself up very nicely for the potential for gore. One of the scenes that I'm specifically thinking of, there, Billy sort of crashes a party in a sense, and you have the potential to really up the ante in terms of the body count of the film, which they do. But as soon as that whole sequence had started for me, I got excited. I got giddy because I was like, oh my gosh, this opens up. We're probably going to see so much gore here. And they really are reserved on everything that they do show. There is a high body count in it, but we don't get any sort of graphic violence. Not necessarily.
It's like, okay, that I don't even know if we could say that, because like we do see people get like their guts ripped out, but it's not what I think we're all used to, right?
Yes.
Like, okay.
It's so like abrupt. It's like one thing after another
Yeah.
after another that we don't really get to sit with it. If we're talking about something like Terrifier, hey, if you've seen Terrifier, you know what we're talking about in terms of we sit in these scenes. It goes one step to the next step to the next step, where this one, the sequence happens so quick, and there is some interesting gore in here. I mean, we do see some stuff, but it's not like a marathon of, oh my gosh, moments that we're used to in certain aspects, especially with Cineverse, especially as I think horror has taken this turn over the past few years to get even gorier, especially with smaller properties like this. And I think maybe going into it, I had that expectation. That wasn't a full follow through, but there is some interesting gore. It just isn't over the top. It isn't crazy. This isn't necessarily, I guess, what you would call blood soaked.
Yes. And I think I think that's important to put that out there. Luke also agreed. That's why we are saying as much as we are about this, because normally we want to leave kills and things like that up to you guys to find out, and that's your imagination. But like, I think it's important because it definitely skewed a little bit of how we saw this film, and I think in some degree. With that being said, though, I still think that for the most part, I'm impressed with how they handled the story here. They do a lot more with the story, with the character of Billy, this character of Pam, who he meets, and their kind of relationship and their kind of, just working together and what's going on in this town in this film. They spend so much more time than I was expecting with them. And a lot of it sets up a very different kind of direction than I think we've ever really seen Silent Night, Deadly Night commit to, in a proper format, I should say.
I think this one does a great job at differentiating itself from the original and any of the other installments in those franchise films. That this one certainly does have a different route that it takes. It does have a stronger, I guess, supernatural element to it that I was a big fan of. I love that aspect of it. It was unexpected for me, and I love the way that they do approach it. I think it does add in a lot of texture to the Billy character and what he's going through. I'm not on board or 100% fully with everything that they do with the lore that's established with this new element. I just think, sometimes the charisma of our villain, that's all you need. You can certainly still get behind them, even if they're doing wrong things. You don't necessarily need this dichotomy of morals and things. And I think maybe we get into a little bit of that issue with Silent Night, Deadly Night here that I wasn't fully on board with, because I think Rohan Campbell in this is fantastic. I think his performance is great. He's a great Billy. We talked about on Sunday Scaries when this was first announced, when we've seen the trailers, that he just looks like he's having a tremendous time here, and his performance is great. And I think in terms of the narrative, you could have just left it up to him to provide, I guess, this for the audience to resonate more so with him and not needing another chapter in his narrative, I guess.
I would go as far as to say, I said it off air too, I think this is his best performance. I think Rohan Campbell is just absolutely acing it in this role as Billy. He is likable. You understand why he's like this, and you also see the craziness and the darkness come out of him. It's weird. It's almost like there's this and I won't say too deep into what the supernatural stuff is. I want people to discover that. I think you did a great job of saying it. I think like there's an element that my wife and I watching this, we almost coined it as Dexter, that I think is very interesting. Now, if you've seen that show, your head will kind of start to turn a little bit. If you haven't, I think that what they do is very unique. It's very interesting, and it gives that kind of element for Rohan Campbell to, I guess, dabble both sides of this character in the sense of he can be likable, he can be a good dude, but he can also do a lot of naughty things. And he has a lot of fun doing those things. And I think that was the best part. Now, is that 100% what I wanted? No. I agree with Luke. I think that we could have the charisma of a villain. I think that Billy in the original is a tragic character, but you're still very much like conflicted in the sense of I understand why he's like this and what's going on, but he's still really being dark and mean and scary. And I don't think that this movie has that. I don't think it ever gets that. I think that we are so much in Billy's corner throughout this film that you're not going to reach that. And I was expecting that, but like I think to the degree it's going to be a little bit of a different change for people who are fans of the franchise.
I think so too. I think it might be a little bit of an adjustment, but especially watching reviews and maybe being a little bit more prepped for it, you might resonate with that a little bit more. They certainly make Billy into, I would say, probably certainly more than the original. I'm trying to think of any other characters in the franchise, but I'd probably say one of the most sympathetic characters. What he's going through and everything in this tale, this retelling of Silent Night, Deadly Night. So for me, not necessarily 100% on board with that. I think Rohan Campbell's a strong enough actor. You've seen him in as Corey Cunningham. I know a lot of people don't like Halloween Ends. We're on that side of the coin as well, but I think his performance in that is great. He has got this darkness to the Corey Cunningham character that we see. And then you look at something like the monkey that he was at the beginning of the year, and that kind of how off the wall, off the beaten path that character felt, where he really felt like he amped up his charisma in just the way he wanted to present that character. And maybe that's what I was looking for in Silent Night, Deadly Night, is a little more off the wall take, because there are a few elements in here that are like, wow, that really amps up how wild this film can be. But then it also has this groundedness to it. So sometimes for me, it wasn't as cohesive as I wanted it to be. I wanted this thing to kind of be balls to the wall crazy, really just turn up that volume and go nuts with it. But there is a groundedness to an extent to Silent Night, Deadly Night, other than that supernatural element to it as well. Another thing that I wasn't necessarily, maybe I wish they would have presented as a detail earlier on in the film. There is another kind of opposing force in this that we don't spend as much time that I wanted them to in this. I think, you could have got a lot of mileage out of that, but everything in terms of what we get as we're working toward the end of the film, it kind of all happens very abrupt in terms of the runtime of the film and how it all comes to a conclusion. So I wanted maybe a stronger element, an earlier element into that to kind of get us on board, because when they present it, when it comes full force, I'll admit I forgot about it, because it was hinted toward, it was mentioned earlier on in the film, and then it comes back in full force. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot this is an element. So I wanted maybe something that was going to really punch me in the gut a little bit more, of just missing that mark a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's 100% the situation I'm in too, where it's like I wanted more of a central villain. In the original, we have what is it, the Mother Superior character. Yes. Yeah, where it's like she's not like a central villain, but she's kind of who we're aiming towards the end of the film. And like there's an element of that here, and yes, just like Luke said, you almost forget about it. And I wouldn't say that's the worst thing, but it would have made the movie go from a really enjoyable Christmas slasher, I think, to something that would have elevated to like, oh wow, this is something I can't wait to recommend to everybody time and time again because it does have this extra layer of oomph to it. I just feel like, and you kind of said this off air, and I think this is a good way to surmise it for me, is like this movie sets up what could very likely be a really great hits all these points that we want sequel. Not that it like directly sets it up, but like you see all the groundwork already laid for our characters here. So if they were ever to do one, I think that would be the movie where we get a lot more of what we thought we were going to get out of this.
Yeah, I think this is such a solid foundation where it opens up the lore of the franchise, and we look at what has come before this, where that one reached all the way to number 5, all completely different stories other than really 1 and 2. But Silent Night, Deadly Night as a franchise did lead up to a full 5 films, where this one does lay a lot of great groundwork. I don't know what their intention is here. As we worked up that conclusion, I think that's probably going to be more of a sticking point as well, where it's going to leave a certain taste in your mouth. You're either going to love it or you're not going to be 100% on board with it. I don't think there's really going to be anywhere in between. So I'm intrigued to see how people are going to sit with this one, because it has a lot of great stuff. I think it just misses the mark slightly, especially with a lot of earlier reviews, a lot of discussion going around about Silent Night, Deadly Night, and I had heard a lot of violence in this film, which does exist, but like we said, not necessarily a blood-soaked kind of film, but going in with a different expectation, kind of re-racking your brain, I think maybe you'd have a lot more fun with this film. This is an easy, in your holiday rotation, it's going to fit right in. This one, we have had so many misses in Silent Night, Deadly Night, with I'll bring up 3 and 4 again. Those are complete misses in the franchise, where it's like this one is one of the top films in the Silent Night, Deadly Night franchise right
Oh,
now.
absolutely. 100%. And it's like, it is just so different than I think we were expecting. And I think that that is something we should applaud. Again, I think we said it off air, maybe, or maybe this is something I'm regurgitating. If so, I'll cut it out. But it's just the idea of, you know, we should have maybe expected this looking at Mike P. Nelson's career and just kind of how he handled things like Wrong Turn, where it's like he did take a different approach there, where that one is a really sharp turn without the Cannibal Hillbillies. This one I would say is just a slight turn. You know, it's a soft turn. We're kind of just, you know, they do different things, but they still very much understand the iconography. And yes, one thing I will mention, there's a lot of great stuff in here as far as references to all the films. I picked up on so many things. There is a lovely, very funny, and I laughed. My wife had no clue what the hell I was laughing at. Black Christmas, you know, I think it's the remake actually, nod to this. And I thought that was great. Clearly, there's so much love here and so many things that I think horror fans themselves, when they get out and they go see Silent Night, Deadly Night, you're going to have so much fun. Again, us being hardcore fans of the franchise, you could say, having an experience with it, really knowing and having an idea of what we would like to see out of this. This doesn't necessarily reach that, but it's not anything bad. It's still very much worth watching. So I'm going to comfortably sit at a recommend for Silent Night, Deadly Night. I went into this wanting this to be a must-see, wanting this to scratch every single itch, and it scratches a lot of them. There's still some things I'd like a little bit more of. There's still some things I think we need to prepare people for, but very much this is one of the most fun films I've seen this year for sure.
A great installment in the holiday horror subgenre for sure. Rohan Campbell is fantastic. I'm in agreement with Dylan saying this is probably his strongest performance that I've seen from him. I'm excited to see what he's going to do next. I think he was a great Billy. What great casting for this. He was so believable, added a lot of texture to that character. And like I said, he's got a lot of charisma. And this one does have upped ante in terms of the body count, not as much gore as I was expecting, or as memorable kills as I had wanted them to be, especially when you're using that holiday horror as the backdrop. I thought maybe you could have turned the volume up there as well. I love the extra supernatural element. I would say, you know, Mike B. Nelson certainly took a slight turn, but not a wrong turn with the narrative in this one. So, you know, I'm going to sit there with a recommend as well. This is a little bit lower recommend for me. I wanted this to be a real strong recommend or a must-see. Just didn't hit every mark that I wanted it to, but still a very fun watch for the holidays. This is certainly going to be in my rotation. I can't wait to, you know, buy the Blu-ray, have this one in the collection on the shelf, and being able to bust this one out next year and big holiday rotation for the week up leaning up to Christmas. So definitely, I'm excited this is getting a release in theaters. This is going to be a really fun one to go out there. I can comfortably say I think a lot of people will have fun going to the theater to see this one. It's getting real cold out there, and I think this is a great time. Snow's falling, and just let the blood run, courtesy of Rohan Campbell as Billy.
Well, there you have it, folks. That's going to wrap us up here for our coverage of Silent Night, Deadly Night. Yes, thank you again to the folks over at Cineverse, Bloody Disgusting, all the people behind the scenes on this one for letting us get the opportunity to check this one out early. Again, I think I only stress that because we were really pining for this. We've been asking for this for a long time, so it's one where it's like, we got there, we did it. And again, I think that it's important. Hopefully you got a lot out of this review before you see it, because I think if you can tamper some of your expectations, if you were on the same level as us, I don't see this being a miss, because for us it wasn't, but I think that it definitely, if you're thinking Terrifier, just re-rack a little bit. We're going for something a little bit more faithful to classic slasher, but pretty good. So alrighty, other than that, we got a lot of great stuff up on the channel. Just keep it here on Splattercast for more and more. We got Sunday Scaries coming up, and that's going to wrap us up here. So until next time, I'm Dylan Newell.
And I'm Luke Janesco.
And remember, stay scared.
Do the horse shit, gonna do it live. Cause Splattercast kick it every day they live. Splattercast, gonna smash your ass. Splattercast, gonna smash your ass. Splattercast, gonna smash your ass. Splattercast, gonna smash your ass.